Scary times. Please hold me close in these scary times. Don't say you love me and then change your mind. I need someone who understands. I'm just a man.
Yo, Bash, you been tripping on them hoes.
Please hold me close in these scary times. Don't say you love me and then change your mind. I need someone who understands. I'm just a man, just a man. Scary times, scary times, scary times, scary times. Scary times. Please hold me close in these scary times. Don't say you love me and then change your mind. I need someone who understands. I'm just a man, just a man. Scary times, scary times, scary times. Scary times, scary times, scary times, scary times, scary times.
What up? Burn live, y'all. Burn live, burn live. I just gonna not keep. I'm gonna marijuanically keeping y'all connected. Marijuanically keeping y'all connected. Hashtagging these red eyes, changing the viewers' eye red, keeping underage smoking off social media, killing myself for your entertainment. Sitting here with friends and family, starting a cannabisation. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and I do mean welcome. Welcome to the show, y'all. Welcome to the show. I hope y'all appreciate the show. I went live earlier. It was pretty decent, but I was having bad internet connection because across the street is a convention center and it was holding a festival and they was using a lot of internet service and it was interfering into my show. And I felt bad and I was like, you know what? I'm going to dedicate myself and I'm going to go live later on tonight and try to bring up, not bring up, but you know what I'm saying, just give y'all a better show than what y'all seen earlier. So if y'all seen the show that we did earlier, I appreciate what we was talking about, taxes and things that are coming towards us that we're actually gonna have to pay for, how they trying to reduce jobs and stuff like that. I believe that was a pretty good conversation and we went somewhere with it. If you did, and I do apologize, go check that out. If I for one thing, I think the best place to go check that out is on Rumble because I had some of the biggest crowd. So it makes me believe that just maybe that it was better able to watch and see on Rumble than YouTube, X, or anything else. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I'm just here to do a job. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, get your blunts, get your joints, get your dabs, get all that stuff. Tell the kids to go sit down. Tell everybody to go chill out. It's time for some adult smoking and a good conversation about some things that may be a little unsettling for some viewers. Okay, this might be a little unsettling for some viewers. Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to get into hmm people are trying to bribe the little people and this election. I never been so deep into an election and what's going on and how people are seeing one way, people are feeling another way, and people want to vote this way, people want to vote that way. Excuse me. But the craziest thing that have just came out and just hit the internet is a bribery that came from the upper people or the gatekeepers. That's the word we're gonna use. That's the word we're gonna call. We have known that the briberies came from the gatekeepers, and I want to talk about it. I want to break it down. I want to play the actual footage of what was said and the discussion, and discuss it. Hopefully, I can turn this into a 2 hour show or at least a good hour and a half to talk about it. Everybody that please do me a favor, please. I'm not asking too much, but if y'all do enjoy this show, y'all like the content, please hit that like button. I appreciate it. The um the higher ups, the corporation are actually emailing me and saying, "Hey, can you please start asking your fan base, your people, your family, the people that you love and care, you make this content for us, see if they can hit the like button for you." So here's me asking. I'm probably gonna ask once in the beginning, once at the end. Please can you hit that like button if you like what you see. Now, first and foremost, my I guess my main question to everybody to get us started is, and I heard it somewhere else. First and foremost, it was like a totally different subject that was brought up to me, and I was like, hmm. Because when you got everybody in your corner, so basically, when you got everybody in your corner, everybody working with you, do you expect everybody to be loyal to you? You expect everybody working with you for you to trust, right? You expect no backstabbing. And I seen this on a podcast that a dude felt some type of way of a comment. He was like, dude, you's a backstabbing person. And it got to me to thinking, like, damn. With an outsider, when an outsider when an outsider sees that insider is not good for a company or business anything, do they go and tell? Do they go alarm the people and let them know what's going on? And I got to thinking to myself, like, if I say that you was running a company, you was running a business, and this person on the side, we're gonna call him Larry, was going around sneak dissing about you and your company, and me and you became good friends, and we want to do partnership. Shall I come and tell you that, like, this is what's going on? When a person coming to you and you in a position of power, yeah, you know what? Yeah, when you're in a position of power and you got these people that's trying to get at you, they're calling you, they're hitting you up, they're saying, hey, you know, I don't like your boss or whatever, and this is a way that I feel like me and you, we can take them down. Are you willing to take that fight? Are you willing to take that challenge, as they will call it? So what I mean is, because I probably losing everybody that's watching me, probably really losing y'all. The thing is, Nikki had this is the main subject right here, y'all. Let's just get into it, because maybe I know for a fact I'm horrible at explaining, but let me get into it and then we can break it down.
Okay, honey, can you read this one?
No.
Sure.
How about this one?
Commercial.
No.
Welcome back. We turn now to a dramatic series of developments out of Arizona amid the Republican Party's efforts to flip one of Arizona's Senate seats in November. This afternoon, the state's GOP chair, Jeff DeWitt, announced that he was resigning after a recording from early last year surfaced in which he appeared to offer Republican Senate candidate Kari Lake money in exchange for her not to run.
Is there a number at which
I can be bought?
not be bought?
That's what it's about.
You can take a pause for a couple of years.
No.
And then go right back to what you're doing.
No.
Could you be in this position right here? Come on, ladies. Come on, gentlemen. Could y'all be in a position like this? Could y'all sit up here knowing that the person that you fighting for is getting bribed, is taking bribery, is looking to wipe out you and the person that you're working for?
10 million, 20 million, 30, no. A billion, no. This is not about money. This is about our country. I think it's disturbing that they would even... I am not going to let these people who hate our country tell me not to run. You should call them and tell them to get behind me.
It can give you an incredible...
I'm going to play this version and then I'm going to play Black Conservative because he has a long version. But my main fight, my main argue with people has always been the fact of always trying to say that mainstream government people are out there to work. Do you think there's anybody out there to help us fight against those who don't, who don't like our interests? And this main thing right here is Kari Lake is one of those people 100% out here fighting for me and you, the people. But to take a bribery and even to record it, I think this is balls. This is balls. This was smart, but this was balls.
opportunity to have a bigger voice to fight for stuff than you currently do.
Anybody we had this conversation?
I'm offended that they don't care about our country more.
I actually wish you'd just give me a counter offer this big. Give me a counter.
I can't be bought.
Come on.
I can't.
What? Okay. Because she's going for Senate. Senate. If you was going for Senate and he was coming to you and he was trying to buy you off $10 million, $20 million, $40 million, they're going to write this check for you so you can sit down and not go for fighting for this country or fighting for the freedom of smoking weed for my pothead family that's out there watching. Y'all got to really think about this, yo. I really want y'all to sit and think about this aspect and what it is this person was trying to do, what it is you are willing to fight for. What are you willing to go through? What are you willing to see for a person to sit up here and try to bribe you? Definitely are going to try to bribe you. Definitely are trying to get up in your mix and find out what type of treasures you don't have. But yet again, stuff like this, and I'm glad she did it, but stuff like this is a prime example of why people say, I don't believe in the government. This is why people say they don't believe in the government. And you're sitting up here right along with me, and you don't believe in the government. I just made fun of a friend because she was saying, I'm so tired of the orange man. I was like, Trump 2024, because the orange haired man versus the blonde haired man is a big difference.
In a statement announcing his resignation, DeWitt accused Lake of leaking the audio for her own political gain while also claiming that he...
So after he retired, then he puts out the statement that Kari Lake released this for her own political gain. Yes, I would have did the same thing for my own political gain to let you know that, hey, they are out here really doing this. It's really, really going down. Yes. I would have did the same thing too.
He'd effectively been blackmailed by Lake to step down. Lake's campaign says no one from their team threatened or blackmailed DeWitt. You're looking at Vaughn Hilliard right now driving along the campaign trail because he is our NBC News correspondent and today, more importantly, our Arizona native who has spoken to both Kari Lake and Jeff DeWitt. And Vaughn is on the road with us driving back, I think still in Manchester as you head back to the New York headquarters of NBC. Vaughn, walk us through this. DeWitt may be accused of attempting to pay off Kari Lake, but now he's accusing her of blackmail. Pull back the curtain.
Right. This is a complicated dynamic here, but you said it. It's in Arizona in a year in which it's crucial not only for that U.S. Senate seat, but also for the presidential election here. In this Arizona GOP chairman, Jeff DeWitt, who used to be the chief financial officer of the Trump campaign back in 2016. He was a Trump appointee during the Trump administration, and he's the current, or I should say, as of a couple hours ago, was the chairman of the Arizona GOP. And what you heard play out was Jeff DeWitt attempting to convince Kari Lake to not run for this U.S. Senate after she lost narrowly by 11,000 votes in that gubernatorial race in 2022. And you hear her repeatedly rejecting his offers and suggesting that very powerful people, in his words, could potentially line her up with a job, with a good salary, wanting her.
Yeah, but what type of job? I'm going for senator. I'm going to make a difference. You know that's what type of person she is. You know what type of person you're talking to when you're running this story. You know what type of person you are accusing of trying to bribe. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. I have never seen a bribe in my life like this, of this calibrations. I have never. This right here is groundbreaking to me. Not to say that this doesn't happen. I understand. Yes, this does happen. I get it. It does happen. But it's mind-boggling and it's groundbreaking to me that A, she was smart enough to catch him up in his bullshit, and B, that it really, really happens. Bro, we see stuff like this in movies all the time. All the time. All the time.
Trying to solve the murders.
And so now that you actually see one or hear one, because we're basically hearing one, but then I feel like right now, bros, I feel like we're basically in the midst of it. Hold on, let me see if this is, because my guy on what's it called got a longer version of it.
So,
Oh yeah. I want y'all to really hear this. This is shocking to me, that a real bribery of them rich uppity people, that people like, oh, I hate them. I hate the government. These are the people that you're talking about. Let me see if I can go back. I want y'all to hear this. This is shocking to me.
I think it's disturbing that they would.
Yeah. Okay. Commercial, y'all. I want y'all to hear the beginning.
It's become a big deal, even though Kari Lake was complaining about this back when it first happened. So I want to go ahead and talk about it, because this guy has essentially resigned following the leaking of this audio. But I want to go ahead and play the audio for those of you who haven't heard it. So let's go ahead and get into it.
is there a number at which
I can be bought.
not be bought?
That's what it's about.
You can take a pause for a couple of years.
No.
And then go right back to what you're doing.
No. 10 million, 20 million, 30, no. $1 billion, no. This is not about money. This is about our country. I think it's disturbing that they would even, that anybody would think this is.
No, to be fair, even me, I'll say this. I want a fresh face right now, for the reason that I've never seen anyone, I can't think of a single person in a federal race who's lost, ran in and won. I can't think of it. If you can think of it, let me know.
I'm not going to let these people who hate our country tell me not to run. You should call them and tell them to get behind me. So what's going on? What is, I'm assuming this is our friend.
This is back east. There are very powerful people that want to keep you out.
I know they do.
But they're willing to put their money where their mouth.
Very powerful people, and y'all wonder why we don't trust the government. Damn, it makes a person like me sit up here and try to say, hey, you know what I'm saying? Go out here and try to vote for this person. Go out here and try to figure out what's wrong in your neighborhood, and go out and vote and do the right thing and what you feel is right. But then when you hear and people are putting up proof like this, how am I supposed to win over a crowd and say, hey man, go vote? When you hear the crookedness going on. But now that it's exposed, do it kind of change your mind? So maybe this is another thing that I want to bring at you too. By us exposing the crookedness and showing you that there's people out here trying to fight for our victory. People trying to fight for our victory. Does that make a small difference? Can y'all get behind the squad and say, okay, you know what I'm saying? These boys are really, really trying. Because then it turns into maybe another fight that maybe we can fight for.
Office in a big way. So, this conversation never happened.
This is crazy though. They should want me. I'm a great candidate. People love me. These people are corrupt.
Well, maybe you're right.
They are right. They are corrupt.
Maybe. This never happened. Don't go. Be careful though. I don't get myself in trouble. this, if you say no, which is fine, it's your choice. Don't tell people.
They're gonna try to have me murdered.
I wouldn't doubt that either. Today's world, man. If that stuff that came out last week is right about the cartel stuff, man. They said the cartel's operating in 50 states right now, like all 50, you know? So.
Do you know that the cartel is working in your backyard? Do you know that? I guess it doesn't matter, huh? The cartel's been over here. They've been doing this. What is exposing the truth is gonna do to the American people, huh? What is the truth gonna do for the American people now that we hearing the truth and we seeing the truth, and the truth is supposed to set us free? That's what they tell us. That's what they tell you. That's what they tell me. We are average Joe people. I'm no bigger than you. I'm no smaller than you. And we are supposed to be set free with this right here. Because the truth is being exposed. We see the crookedness. We're hearing the crookedness. We're documenting the crookedness. We just need a light. We need a light at the end of the tunnel.
So what's going on? Who is it? What?
Forget the who. Let me just tell you the what. Let's just say there are people calling around saying, gosh, no, they can't repeat this. Never repeat this. If you say no, don't. If you say, I got offered to buy out. Don't use it. Because then we lose our ability to get things done in the future.
Here's my problem. Rather than just say, let's work with her, she's a great candidate. Because they don't own me. And it pisses me off.
Yeah, it's not about ownership.
It's about control.
I don't know it's about control.
Well, in my opinion, that's 100% what it's about, because why else would they be doing it, right? If they're trying to buy you, they're trying to don't. The biggest or who you buy is still the answer. So what you have right is that established can't be really
it's about being on the team. I guess that's, you know what I mean?
They want to be on the team.
They want you to be on their team.
But
just team. You know?
But if they're pushing a globalist agenda, I can't do that. So what do they want? What do they want me to do?
You want me to stay out for 2 years. What? Let me tell you what I can offer you. But I said you can do whatever you want. Talking head, this and that. So the ask of me was, it's kind of funny. So,
how much is you taking for 2 years, yo? I got a nice little audience everywhere. Shout out to my cannabis conservative group. I hope y'all smoking. Got your books out, got your weed out. Hope you got your learn. Shout out to my ex group out there. We slowly growing. What's up, y'all? I see you. 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 I ain't never had that many people up in X. I ain't gonna lie to you. But come on, y'all. Burn Live crew, y'all know how y'all get down. How much for 2 years if they trying to tell you that, look, I don't want you to run for office, is you gonna take, bro? Where the money at? Where my bag chasers at? Where my bag chasers at? How much y'all getting? What y'all want? How much are y'all gonna take if they came to you and offer you this money? Real smack. I'm curious. 2 years, you running for office, you want to make a change in America because everybody keep telling you that you cannot make a change. There's no way you can make a change. And then what everybody tells you actually come knocking at your door. This is what people tell me every day, come knocking at your door when you in politics. So it's true because she recorded it.
So the ask I got today from back east was, is there any companies out there or something that could just put her on the payroll and give her, to keep her out? And I said, well, what do you want to do? Whatever we need to do.
This is about defeating Trump. And I think that's a bad thing for our country. DeSantis is not America first. This is about the final death blow to Trump. And I don't think that's good for our country.
And you know I love Trump. I love Trump.
It's not good for our country, Jeff.
It's not. But at the same time, I'm not even sure Trump can win again. I don't know that he can win again. I think what it really comes down to for a lot of people, it's not really about like control or agenda. It's just about the ability to raise money to win. You know, if you really want to know, all of politics boils down to money. I think. And even on their end, like what makes them the most money?
I know all these consultants don't want their payday to end, and I don't want to make a deal with these kind of people. This is a hill worth dying on. I'm not. If they're going to steal the election to make me and our movement go away, I'm not letting him do that. I owe it to the people of Arizona.
Did she say she would die for what she stand for? That means she would die for you and you and you and you and you that are watching, to make sure that these globalists, money hungry, don't give a damn about you as people don't get their way. This is why I'm really behind Kari Lake. For real, for real, for real. Stuff like this. The things that she say are so strong. Things she say are things that you want to hear from your mother. When you go out there and you make a mistake, she be like, I still got your back. Y'all may look at this and be like, okay, whatever. No, it's not whatever. Y'all better wake up and see that there's actually a person actually out here that cares. I'm tired of people saying there's nobody out here care, or the only people out here that care are some of these little YouTubers and Rumbles and people like me. We care because we're normal, actual people. No, there's people in government that care too.
To carry their torch and their voice.
Or you don't go away, but you pause.
This is the battles right now, Jeff.
You pause.
Yeah, so again, this guy's saying pause. Yeah, you're not going away. Just pause. Just pause. Again, this guy sounds like a sleaze bag. Okay, he sounds like a creeper. Okay, not one of the type of guys I would want around kids, right? And that's what this guy sounds like, right? But in politics, right? Okay, when you pause, okay, for 2 years, 6, okay, sometimes years.
The battle is right now, and we don't have time to pause on this battlefield.
You're not. You can't scratch their back. It's not for you.
Yeah.
You don't have anything to offer them.
AKA, you can't be controlled, right? So you don't have.
You don't scratch people's back. It's a back scratching club. That's all DC is. It's a big back scratching club. You're in no position to scratch anybody's back, and you've already made it known that if you get there.
Boy, don't this sound like West Wing? Don't this sound like House of Spades? Don't this sound like Game of Thrones? Don't this sound like Law and Order? Sorry about that. He's really, really trying to find an edge so he can pry her open, so he can say like, hey, man, like we had to come with this. She told me no, but I think if we move in this direction towards her, this is how we can break her. But he's finna go back and have to tell her that, man, I couldn't break her.
You're not gonna scratch anybody's back. I don't scratch people's back. You know, I've been on the outs with a lot of people for a long time because I don't scratch backs. You know, where are we in 2 years if they steal the election again?
Listen to what you're saying. Why don't we do something about it? So that we the people can pick our...
What can we do?
I'm not willing to accept that. And I'm going to be the biggest pain in these people's... Go back and tell them that. I'm running, and I'm going to be the biggest pain in their...
And I'm willing to tell them that.
And they're going to have to kill me to stop me.
No, I know. Look.
You don't have to tell.
Yeah, so there's part of me that believes that Kari Lake definitely kind of knew.
Yeah, Kari Lake knew. Kari Lake. This is what I feel like had to happen to prove, to show us, me, you, them, that yes, there are a political party that's trying to buy out and move the opposition to the side. Yes, that is happening. Yes, it is true.
In a big way.
Yes, it's going
So-
down. And if you don't believe that it's not going down, then what else can you say or do when it's pooping in the pudding? And then not only proof in the pudding, the dude actually freaking retired. Like, you know what, I got caught. Fuck. You know, he probably had to do that. You know what I'm saying? He's getting a job somewhere else in another department, but he had to take that L because he didn't succeed and it got leaked out. Probably one of the only few people that ever got put out on blast like this. And if anybody else got any document like this, they're holding it. They're holding it. Come on, man. If stuff like this came out a lot more, we'd be a lot more enthused. We'd be like, okay, this is really showing people that we are out here trying to fight for each other. There's somebody doing it. And yes, there's actually somebody out there doing it for you and me. Let her give her out of her little speech.
I never do anything illegal, and I recorded it, and I'm glad I did.
We are hearing for the first time tonight from GOP Senate candidate Kari Lake about a recording she made that led to the chair of the state Republican Party to resign today.
Jeff DeWitt stepped down suddenly today after that audio was leaked. It seems to reveal he tried to bribe Kari Lake not to run for Senate. DeWitt also accuses Lake of setting him up and questioning whether she can be trusted around people like President Trump and other high-profile folks if she is secretly recording the people she's with and wearing a microphone.
Tonight, we asked Kari Lake about that. Political editor Dennis Wells joining us now. You just got done speaking with her, so what did she have to say?
Well, you know, one of the things, too, you know this, both of you guys know this, there's been a lot of speculation about the timing of this recording and why it's coming out now, because that recording was made not long after Kari Lake had lost her race for governor, but long before she jumped into the Senate race. So it does, again, beg the question, why is the recording coming out now?
Nearly a year ago, Kari Lake took the stage.
Okay. No offense, but I have been learning. When you ask, the way you ask a certain question will let you know what side you're trying to aim your audience at. I've been learning that. So I just want y'all to pay attention to how they aim and they direct these questions. Shout out to my cannabis conservative group. Y'all holding it down.
At a conservative conference and made this accusation.
They came to my door and they tried to bribe me out of getting out of politics. This really happened. I'm telling you this because this is how disgusting politics is.
Just this week, a leaked audio recording appeared to back up Lake's claim. Arizona's family independently obtained a copy of the conversation between Lake and Jeff DeWitt, the chairman of the Republican Party in Arizona. Here's a portion of the recording where DeWitt floated a potential job offer if she quits the Senate race.
The ask of me was, it's kind of funny. So the ask I got today from back east was, is there any companies out there or something that could just put her on the payroll and give her, to keep her out? And I said, well, what do you want to do? Whatever we need to do.
Lake has spoken about that conversation for months now. So we asked Lake, why is the audio coming out just now, nearly a year later?
I had not listened to the recording. To be honest, I recorded it and I never listened to it until a couple days ago. I happened to listen to it and I was sitting there with some of my closest friends and staffers, and I said, I want to listen to this video. I've never listened to it before. I kind of wanted to recall what had happened. And I listened to it, and it was even more horrifying than what I remembered.
Today, DeWitt announced he was stepping down as leader of the state GOP just one day after the audio first came to light. Longtime political consultant Marcus Dellartino says what DeWitt did is not new in politics. What is new, the leaked audio gives the public a look at the inner workings of what sometimes happens behind the scenes in politics. That view may not be pretty to some, but Daryl Artino thinks DeWitt could have handled the conversation better.
I think he probably could have been a tad bit more tactful in the conversation, but again, I think he thought he was talking to a friend, and obviously didn't know he was being recorded, and probably used some language he probably regrets at this point, and could have been a little bit more thoughtful.
Adding to the intrigue, DeWitt also mentions in his resignation letter that he received an ultimatum from Lake's campaign: resign today or face the release of a new, more damaging recording.
And I should mention that the Lake campaign is denying that they sent DeWitt any kind of ultimatum like that. Now, as far as the state GOP party, what happens next? They'll have to pick a new leader to replace DeWitt. Now, that could happen this weekend at the state GOP's annual meeting here in the Valley.
Yeah, to be clear, these two were allies and both staunch supporters of former President Trump. So we'll see if he addresses this situation here in the coming days during his visit to Arizona. I did want to ask you, part of Jeff DeWitt's statement said when this was recorded last spring, he was employing Kari Lake in his private company. Was she working for him?
I asked her directly that. She said he was never her boss, that she did not work for him or anything like that. So that's one of the accusations she flatly did.
They want to know why this came out a year late. We want to know why the laptop came out, but y'all didn't bring that out to 3 years late. But y'all won't answer that question. Y'all won't even ask a question like that. But y'all want to ask her about leaking, and then he retired. And you know what? He retired because there's more. Oh Lord, she probably edited that motherfucker. She probably really edited it. Like, it really went down, bros. Man, if any more come out, y'all know I'm gonna bring it up to you. Y'all know I'm gonna bring it up to you. For sure. I'm gonna bring it up to you. Oh shit. We got good old Hunter Biden. Good old Hunter Biden still getting in trouble, y'all. Hunter Biden still getting in trouble. He's still man. I can't wait to show y'all this.
Site, yes, it usually gets like this. Oh, look, let's be very clear. This isn't about Hunter Biden's white privilege. It's about Hunter Biden's Democrat privilege. Because Donald Trump Jr. showed up for 5 congressional subpoenas. There was never this circus where he was subpoenaed by House Democrats and he showed up on the Senate side or showed up at the White House to answer in some fake, phony, lame press conference, not actually going to the House and doing what he was compelled by a subpoena to do. Hunter Biden did that. And then he has the unmitigated gall to show up here when we know that we're going through actually the legislation for contempt, with, by the way, Mr. Chairman, we should actually get to the legislation of contempt. The speechifying is great, but let's do our business, members. He has the gall to come here, show up, and then when the Democrats are saying, hey, he wants to speak, he leaves. This is a joke. This is a farce. The man has been subpoenaed by Congress. Oh, and by the way, the January 6th committee, Mr. Raskin, which you did sit on, by the way, that was not a normally ordered committee of Congress because Nancy Pelosi did not want the Republican members that then Leader McCarthy put up.
According to the courts, it was.
My time, sir.
Will you yield for a correction?
I was respectful of your time. I didn't say anything. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's move forward with our business. He should be held in contempt. There was a subpoena. He did not answer it. Any other American will be held in contempt by Congress. Any other. This is Democrat privilege of the highest order. Let's do our jobs. I yield.
Gentleman yields. Chair now recognizes Ms. Ocasio-Cortez from New York.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to address briefly, quickly, that moment about privilege and all of this that we're seeing here. It was a very beautiful speech by the gentlelady who, as she mentioned, was helped lead on the now majority side, the Civil Rights and Civil Liberties Subcommittee. But I think it's so exemplary of the point that she also oversaw the elimination of the Civil Rights Subcommittee on this committee, which really kind of gives the whole game away. We show up, we give speeches, we give flowery words, but at the end of the day, participate in the structural erosion of the rights and representation of people that are marginalized, women, people of color, people that just need to see their due process and civil liberties protected in this country. But I will move on. As also the Republican side had mentioned in their many raisings of the January 6th committee, that it's not just Hunter Biden, you, me, any individual subject to equal treatment under the law, to be held up to accountability under the law, but it is also these committees and this committee that is subject to oversight and law. We must comply with the law here as well. Now, I may be one of the very few people that actually believes in Congress, you know, in this country, but I do, and many of us do here. And we have an obligation to engage in good faith participation to execute and comply with the subpoena. The chairman said in front of the country several times to Hunter Biden, you can show up here in front of the world, in front of the public. Hunter Biden took him up on that offer. He said, I will show up in public. I will show up in public. He showed up here today. He showed up here in the past. And Mr. Chairman, I know you do your best with what you've got, but you've got members here that have submitted falsified evidence to the record. You have members here that have submitted and mischaracterized closed-door hearings, and people want to say back and forth at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what party it's happened from. You've got members who've engaged in revenge porn in this committee. So it is understandable why Hunter Biden would want to testify in front of the public for the American people to be able to witness that testimony for themselves. You've got members who've defied subpoenas. You've got members who we are 1 year into the term asking what the rules are at the beginning of the committee. The book was given to us on day one. And so what we should do is allow the man to testify. I believe in the power of the Oversight Committee. Frankly, I believe in it regardless of whether Republicans or Democrats have the chair, because I believe that this committee should have the power of oversight, and we cannot do that on a partisan basis. And so for that, I implore this committee to allow Hunter Biden to testify publicly. I implore and I ask for that to happen. And we cannot do that by getting engaged in this back and forth on a defiance of the subpoena. Let him comply. Let him do it today. Let him do it tomorrow. But let the man do it. And with that, I yield back to the ranking member.
Thank you, Ms. Ocasio-Cortez. I think you went right to the heart of the issue here. You know, if this ended up going to court, Mr. Chairman, and I hope it doesn't, I really hope that this committee will act in a way to negotiate and achieve a compromise with the witness. But if it goes to the court, it's going to present a novel question. What happens when a committee represented by its distinguished chairman goes out in public and repeatedly invites and challenges a witness to come before the committee, and then that witness gives the answer, yes, I will come in? At that point, the committee pulls a bait and switch and says, well, we actually don't want you to come before the full committee as was offered repeatedly in public by the chairman, but instead we'd like you to come to a back room and do it there in a closed deposition. Now, undoubtedly, if that had been the original offer, the committee would stand in a very good place, the way we did with Mr. Biggs and Mr. Perry and Mr. Jordan, because they were told to come in, they were subpoenaed, and they blew off the subpoenas of the committee, which is why I don't think anybody should be voting on that side other than Ms. Mace, because Ms. Mace is the one who took the position that the rule of law means something. And I take the position, if we give somebody a subpoena, they should come in. But there's a very sticky problem now. What happens when we give them one offer A and then switch it over to offer B? That's why I hope you will work it out, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for yielding.
Gentlelady's time's expired. To respond to the gentlelady, he can come in for a hearing after the deposition. Chair now recognizes Ms. McClain for 5 minutes.
So I just want to bring everything back home. This hearing is a contempt of Congress hearing for Hunter Biden. It's not about January 6th. It's not about Mr. Perry. It's not about white privilege. It's a contempt of Congress hearing about Hunter Biden. Although I appreciate
Kind of like how
the
she said that,
diversion
bros.
tactics, like my colleague
I do like
before
how
me
she said
let's
that.
get back to our business, which is actually the contempt of Congress. I also want to thank my colleague, Ms. Cortez. I agree. Let him comply, right? Let him comply. And with our ranking member, let's follow the rule of law. So in contrast, let me read the rules of the committee real quickly. It's on page 9 of the rule book, right? And it talks about notices. Notices for the taking of depositions shall specify the date, the time, and the place of examination. Depositions may continue from day to day. Then you go to section D. Consultation with the ranking minority member of the committee shall include, listen for it, 3 calendar days notice. So although I'm sure any defendant would like to come in and say, Judge, I want to come in on this day, and the defendant is going to tell the judge and the legal system how the trial is going to run. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. It's really simple. So I do agree with you. Let him comply. Let him comply with the subpoena that we gave him. He chose not to. So therefore, we are holding Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress. And I would also like to say, you had the opportunity when you all were in charge, or y'all were in charge, to do the same with the members on our side of the aisle. You didn't do that. That's not our fault. That's yours. So we're here to talk about Hunter Biden. For everyone watching today, and for my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, I want to be clear again what this hearing is really about. Hunter Biden was subpoenaed to answer Congress, right? That's it. Questions. But he violated federal law by failing to appear before the committee. You can't spin that, for my colleague on the other side of the aisle. You can't spin that. The bottom line is Hunter did not show up, and he committed a crime. You see, we are a land of laws, and we must follow those laws. And that's what we're here to do today. Instead, he was on the grounds of the U.S. Capitol, where he made a public statement without taking questions from the media, conveniently. So instead of showing up for his legal obligation, he showed up just steps away from a hearing room to spit in the face of this Congress. And unfortunately, that is Hunter Biden's MO. We're merely doing our job. What we're doing here today is showing the country that Hunter will not receive special treatment due to his last name. It's very, very simple. And he will be held to the same standard that every other American citizen would be expected to do. Can you imagine if you're average America and you get a subpoena and you go in and tell the judge, hey, let me tell you, here's how it's going to work, Judge. I'm not showing up. I'm not showing up. I'm going to do it my way. I know we have laws, but don't worry about those laws because that would never fly. But that's exactly what Hunter Biden's doing. And if we care about this institution, if we care about democracy, at some point in time, we have to hold the law and people who break the law accountable. Or, like my colleague said, we are going to have anarchy. So simply put, it's not about anything else. We're talking about Hunter Biden and his non-compliance. And you can get up and scream and holler and rant and rave and talk about everything but the fact we subpoenaed Congress legally Hunter Biden, and he chose not to show up. Read the rules. He has to follow the law. I know that's a very foreign concept, but you have to do it. And for the Biden family, you too have to follow the laws. And with that, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back.
Quick parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
The gentlelady makes an excellent point about the 3-day notice requirement for subpoenas. I don't think that's ever been complied with in this committee. Will you commit to?
That's not my issue. I'm just reading
No,
the laws.
no, it's my time, Mrs. McLean. Thank you so much. Would you commit to honor the 3-day notice requirement that Mrs. McLean properly invoked?
What I
We
comply.
look. I'll say this to answer the ranking member's question. Then I'll recognize Ms. Stansberry. We have complied with the.
And you, okay, well, we might have a dispute about it, but
What
you
I
will
would ask
continue
is,
that
will you
going
comply?
forward. You will
We-
continue
Will you
going
comply?
forward.
We have followed
That's
the
my
rules.
question. Will
We
you
don't
comply?
have the chair, Mrs. McLean, and you don't have the time.
We have followed the rules. This is.
I mean, it's
Chair now recognizes Ms. Stansberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, it's always a wild and interesting adventure here in the Oversight Committee, and this morning certainly doesn't disappoint. I want to talk for a few moments about the resolution that's been proposed in the ANS here, because that's what we're here to debate this morning, and really the content of that, including the assertions about the investigation that led to the moment that we're at here today. But I am really glad that my colleague mentioned that we are a land of laws and that every citizen should have to comply with them, including members of this committee, not to mention a chairman, who was subpoenaed during the last Congress and refused to respond. So if we're going to apply these laws, then they must apply equally, I would think, to even members of this committee, and certainly to the front runner in the GOP's presidential election, which I'll get to in a moment. But let's talk a little bit about this ANS and about the background and correct the record a little bit.
Really
You always have to be the center of attention, man.
There's an authenticity involved in caring about oneself.
2,000 pages of activity reports provided by the Treasury Department, dozens of hours of testimony from
Okay. I was kind of under the influence that we supposed to be up here discussing about Hunter Biden, and you really finna bring up Trump.
special counsel, U.S. attorneys, DOJ officials, FBI, IRS agents, financial advisors, friends, business partners, evidence provided by the Ways and Means Committee, and expert witness testimony by the GOP's own witnesses right here in this committee in September, who sat right there at that table and said there was not sufficient evidence to support proceeding with an impeachment. In fact, there are numerous members of the GOP currently serving in Congress who do not believe there is sufficient evidence. The question is, where are the receipts? You have reviewed thousands of pages of documents, countless hours of testimony, talked to expert witnesses, including your own witnesses, that can't provide a single iota of evidence of wrongdoing by this president. But last week, House Democrats released this. We have the receipts. In fact, they're all right here in the Mazars report. And for any of you that have not dug in on this report, I want to talk a little bit about what this report shows, because it's actual receipts from foreign governments who spent $7.8 million at Trump properties during his presidency while they were actively seeking to influence foreign policy and decisions by the administration.
Will the gentlelady yield to the question?
Let's talk about some of the receipts that are in here. Malaysia, over $250,000 was spent by representatives of Malaysia while their ex-president was being investigated for a massive corruption scheme, and which Trump's ex-fundraiser was indicted for illegally lobbying on. Saudi Arabia, tens of thousands of dollars spent by the Saudi government and by the Crown Prince and his staff.
Do you yield to a question?
Later give $2 billion to Jared Kushner's private firm. Qatar, tens of thousands of dollars spent by Qatar during what was described as a charm offensive and an arms sale to the government of Qatar by the Trump administration. Kazakhstan, thousands of dollars spent by the president of Kazakhstan on a controversial visit which raised questions about human rights violations, business dealings, and a money laundering scheme involving Donald Trump's properties in New York. So my question is, if the GOP actually cares about criminal activity,
How about they investigate the receipts that we have right here?
Can I answer that question?
Of influence peddling by Donald Trump, and a man who is currently facing trial in 4 jurisdictions on 91 counts of criminal activity, who's been twice impeached by this body and is currently trying to run for president again.
I would love to answer your question.
Of this committee has already endorsed. This is not factually based. This is a farce. This is a political stunt, and it is designed to help Donald Trump secure the nomination this November.
We yield to a question.
So let's call it what it is. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield my time back to the chair.
4 seconds. 4 seconds. 3, 2. All right. Time's expired.
Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to enter information for the record.
What's the information?
Oh, my God.
State the information.
Thank you.
I reserve the right to object. The minority has not provided a copy of the material for the record. In the past, she's displayed pornography. Is pornography allowed to be, are pornographic photos allowed to be displayed in this committee room, Mr. Chairman?
It's not pornography.
Okay, well, you're the expert.
I'm not an expert, Mr. Raskin.
Seems like it.
Mr. Chairman, I object to the.
Interesting the things of first things I ever heard some allegations about other countries spending money talking to Trump on Trump's property. And my sort of question is, these people spending money on Trump's property, so therefore Trump's, okay.
This is,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman.
Hold
All
on.
you need is one objection.
We need decorum. I'm gonna let the lady state, and then if you object still, we'll go from there.
Mr. Chairman, don't we have the opportunity to review the material before
I
it's
reclaim my
provided?
time. I reclaim my time. Mr. Chair, I reclaim my time. I'd like to enter for the record an excerpt from a bank
Hold on,
statement.
there's a
bank
objection,
statement that's
Mr. Chairman.
public in regards
object?
to Hunter Biden
Mr. Mifune
and
has
his
already
bank
objected.
accounts, in his payments.
Mr. Chairman, I object
Okay.
to this styrofoam board. It's not a document.
Reclaiming order. We'll.
Clearly, Democrats today don't want the truth to come out.
Mr. Chairman,
But
this just
I-
means that
I would
any
like to
member will
enter
be
for
able
the
to add to
record-
their 5 minutes by putting on a display of
Mr.
placards.
Chairman, I'd like to enter for the record.
I think
uh,
all
Mr. Chairman, I
members-
from
I
a
object.
bank report that shows
Can we get
proof
some order
of
here?
Hunter
Mr.
Biden's
Chairman,
bank accounts
where are
Quiet
we
while
in
the
the
and human
All right.
security.
Okay. Let's hold off on this. There's several objections. We're going to talk staffs between each other, and then we'll go from there. But I understand. I think what you're saying is from the laptop.
Someone on this committee accused me of revenge porn, and I have a right to respond to that, and I'd like to introduce
But within the rules of the
evidence
committee, everyone.
for the
Mr. Chairman,
record. This is important evidence for the record, and it pertains to our investigation into Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, and this comes
So
from.
do it behind closed
this
doors like you
comes
do
from-
it.
It doesn't appear to be bad, but you ought to.
but Mr. Chairman, she's got
is the
9
relevance
placards there. Does she get an additional 5
But
minutes or 10 minutes?
I don't understand how any of you who support the
Well, what's the
genital
order?
mutilation
Okay.
of children
We're
and
gonna
drag queens
we're
showing
gonna
their
we're
body
gonna
parts
reclaim
at parades
order here.
are
We'll
offended.
suspend and let the staff discuss the evidence from the laptop being entered into the record. Chair now recognizes Mr. Fallon from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so.
Okay, hold on. We suspend, so we need to stop for a moment. Okay, hold on. We'll get this. Y'all gonna discuss?
Hey, see now that part right there. Anybody want to sit up there and say, "See, that's the clown, that's the buffoonery that happens of why we can't get nothing done." I have nothing to argue with you. I would not argue with not a one of y'all. Because at first it seemed like we was, it was structured, but then when certain people want to say something and they feel some type of way about what they got to say, they want to object and try to get it knocked out. Instead of just hearing it, taking it like on the chin, whatever. Who cares? That's how I look at it. You know what I'm saying? But you know, when you're trying to get some a point, you know, you got to win it for the big guys. Other than that, yeah, I'm finna take y'all to the press secretary, people, dog, and cause this is a little update and see what they be on.
Again. Look, we always, I'm going to start off and say the same thing that I said. Their priority is to make sure that Americans feel safe and that they are safe, and they're going to continue to work toward that goal. And look, certainly everything is being looked into. There's a, as it was stated by your colleague, there is a hearing happening on the Hill, and we're always going to look into what we can do, and FAA is going to do this to make sure that we continue that we do everything possible to make sure that they are safe.
What's your message to American flyers who might be thinking, well, we can't trust Boeing, we can't trust the FAA to do its oversight part. What are we supposed to do?
I think what the president has said, and we'll.
Man, hold on. We asking you as the press secretary, look at her. These planes have been going down, crashing, falling, all that bullshit. What y'all gonna do? Hey, step that shit up, okay? Then y'all put out another report that y'all want to hire people that ain't technically maybe not qualified. Come on, do something. We need help, okay? Some of us are scared to fly. Some of us I know is hey, fix that.
Continue to say is that that's the FAA's top priority. Their top priority is certainly to make sure that Americans feel safe. That's why they launched an investigation, and it is increasing, obviously, their oversight of Boeing. And look, and we've talked about how the Boeing MAX 9 aircraft will remain grounded, right? That's what they're going to do. That's one way that Americans could feel that FAA has taken action until FAA is satisfied. They are satisfied that they are safe to return to service. And so, look, that is a commitment that Americans could be sure of. That is a top priority of FAA's. We want to make sure that we look into it and figure out exactly what happened, and they're going to get to the bottom of it.
Thanks, Karine. Just wanted to get an updated read on inflation impacts of the Red Sea attacks. I wonder if the White House is seeing anything in the data that you're making concerned.
So you've been asked about this a couple of times. I think the Admiral may have been asked about this yesterday as well. Look, these are things that we're obviously going to continue to monitor. We have not seen any impacts. Our national security team and obviously our economic team are going to continue to keep a close eye on this, on the evolving situation in the Red Sea. The Department of Transportation and the Navy are in close communication with ocean shippers, insurers, industry, and other stakeholders, and we're taking steps to ensure shipping in the Red Sea is unobstructed. So that is something that we're certainly going to continue to monitor and keep an eye on. Okay, go ahead.
In the wake of recent job cuts at outlets like the Los Angeles Times, does the administration support legislation like that moving forward in California that would require social media platforms to pay news outlets for their content? And is the administration concerned about the layoffs at the LA Times, Time, and other outlets?
Look, we are always going to support the freedom of speech, obviously, and we believe journalists have a really difficult job, right? To make sure that making sure that they are able to report on the facts. And so certainly we're always going to support that. And we've been very clear in not engaging with the Los Angeles Times while they're going through this process. I know they went on strike, so we're very respectful of that as well. As it relates to the legislation, I haven't seen the legislation. I have not spoken to the team here, so I don't want to get ahead of that.
Thank you, Karine. This week, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called for a crackdown on Zyn nicotine pouches, saying that companies seem to set their sights on young kids, teenagers, and even lower, and use social media to hook them. Does the administration believe there should be a crackdown on Zyn?
That's something for FDA to speak to. I can't speak to that from here. I've not seen that report, so I would refer you to the FDA specifically.
Thank you. There are about 800 gotaways at the border every day.
96,000 since October 1st. Does President Biden want to locate these folks who have disappeared into this country to parts unknown?
So here's what I will say is that the president, one of the reasons that the president is having these negotiation procedures or process with the Senate, with both Republicans and Democrat, as I've said many times before, is because we want to deal with what's going on at the border. He's taken this very seriously. He wants to make sure that we come up with a bipartisan agreement, and we are very appreciative for that. But there's also the diplomatic aspect of it, of making sure that we're having conversations with Mexico, and we have had, and we've had productive conversations with them. And DHS is maximizing. They are maximizing its enforcement efforts. And since May 12th, and you've heard me say this as well, DHS has been able to return more than 482,000 individuals who did not have the legal basis to be here. So we're doing what we can, right, at the border. DHS is maximizing their process, doing what they can at the border, but we need help, right? We need Congress to actually act and do their part as well, and we're having those negotiations and we're having those processes. I cannot speak to the 8,000 number you just provided to me. What I can speak to is what we're trying to do on the policy side and the funding side to make sure that the Border Patrol, the law enforcement on the ground, have what they need.
Different topic. Is election denying a joke now?
What do you mean? You have to say more than just make a random statement.
Why did the president say, hello, Virginia, and the real governor, Terry McAuliffe?
He was making a joke about Terry. He was making a joke. He was, I mean, if you play it back, it's clearly that the president was making a joke.
What's the joke?
He was making a joke about McAuliffe's previous term as governor.
How are you guys going to convince people, though, that this idea of denying election results is very bad if President Biden is going out and making jokes like this?
He did not deny it. He congratulated Governor Youngkin. Matter of fact, when he won his election, he did it out of the gate. Out of the gate. Really, truly. He congratulated the governor. And not only that, we've had opportunities to work closely with the governor over the past couple of years. And, this is a president that works across the aisle. We've seen that many times. And he was making a joke. Go ahead, tell us.
Do you have an update on the border negotiations? Has the president made any calls or done anything over the past couple of days to move those negotiations along?
So the update that I can give you is that our team has been in regular contact daily with the negotiators on the Hill, doing obviously, as I mentioned many times, both Republicans and Democrats. We feel like it's been in good faith. We feel like we are grateful that these conversations have been happening for the past couple of months, and we certainly want them to continue. As it relates to the president tends to have conversations with members of Congress because of his long-term relationships with many of them. Don't have anything to read out, but I can say that our team here has been in regular contact, daily contact with negotiators.
There was reportedly a pretty raucous lunch in the GOP Senate conference yesterday. A little bit of debate over whether or not Republicans should have multiple days, potentially up to 3 weeks to review this, as opposed to a deal being put on the floor and senators being forced to vote on it very quickly. Does the president, who was in the Senate for a very long time, have thoughts on whether or not Republican senators and Democratic senators should have time to review what?
That is something, as it relates to the process and how they're moving forward, the process and the technical and the procedures and all of the things that is related to passing legislation or agreeing on a piece of legislation. That's something for the leadership to speak to. I can't speak to it from here. All right, we have to gather. Let's see. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Bree. Kirby mentioned those ongoing talks with Mexico about immigration. Has that dialogue and the handshake deal with China from last year yielded any substantive results regarding fentanyl flow?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I believe we made some announcements. Yeah, happy to get back to you with some announcement that we made after the meeting that the president had. Oh, that's right. We are a bit early. Got 9 more minutes before it's afternoon. Okay. Today, President Biden announced that a record-breaking 21.3 million Americans have enrolled in health care coverage through the Affordable Care Act. It's another major milestone in his work to expand access to affordable health care and lower costs for families. Not only do more Americans have health care coverage than ever before, but thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act, which every single Republican in Congress voted against, this president has capped the cost of insulin to $35 for seniors, allowed Medicare to negotiate lower prescription drug prices for the first time ever, and has saved millions of Americans an average of $800 per month on their health care insurance. The American people have made it clear they don't want the Affordable Care Act weakened and or repealed. They want it strengthened and protected. President Biden will continue to fight to bring down health care costs and prescription drug costs as well. With that, we have the Admiral in the briefing room today who's going to give us a little bit of an update on travel to Africa and also an update on the latest on the Middle East. Okay, Admiral.
Afternoon, everybody. So, yeah, I do have a little bit of a yeah, good morning. I wasn't paying attention, clearly. I do have a little bit of a grab bag of stuff to get through, and I'll promise I'll try to do as quickly as I can. Yesterday, as I think you're all aware, in direct response to a series of escalatory attacks against U.S. and coalition personnel in Iraq and Syria, including, of course, at Al-Assad Air Base over the weekend, the United States military conducted strikes on facilities that were used by the Iran-backed Kataib Hezbollah hit militia group, as well as other affiliated groups in Iraq. Initial reports that we're getting indicate that we had effective results on all three targets. 2 headquarters buildings and an intelligence facility were destroyed. I want to emphasize that these actions were taken in self-defense following, of course, the attack on our forces in Iraq, and certainly consistent with international and domestic law. As the President has said, we're not going to hesitate to take necessary action to protect our troops and our facilities, and we'll stay vigilant going forward, of course. Separately, I'm also sure that you saw yesterday a joint statement from 24 countries expressing support for the action that the United States and our United Kingdom Armed Forces, with support from Australia, Bahrain, Canada, Netherlands, took against the Houthis on Monday. I think it's notable that more and more countries now wanted to show that they condemn Houthis' indiscriminate and unlawful attacks on international commerce, and that they support the actions that we and our partners are taking. Now, as you may have seen, several cabinet and senior administration leaders are engaging with countries across the African continent this week, building on our commitment to accelerate U.S.-Africa partnership opportunities following the Africa Leaders Summit last year. And just run through quickly, if I can, just to kind of give you a sense of the scope. Secretary Blinken, of course, is traveling to Cabo Verde, the Ivory Coast, Nigeria, and Angola this week. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, is visiting Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Sierra Leone. U.S. International Development Finance Corporation CEO Scott Nathan led a presidential delegation to attend the inauguration of the DRC President Tshisekedi over the weekend. Apologize for that. EPA Administrator Reagan is in Mozambique and Ghana, sharing solutions and building partnerships on a range of environmental priorities. USAID Deputy Administrator Coleman is traveling to Maputo and the central and northern regions of Mozambique. And the CDC's Principal Deputy Director, Nirav Shah, is visiting the Sahel and West Africa to discuss our health partnerships. And of course, Jake Sullivan, our National Security Advisor, spoke with his Kenyan counterpart earlier this week. That's a lot of activity just this week across the continent. And there's just the start of what we think will be a very busy 2024. We're looking forward to deepening and those relationships and improving on that coordination. Now, before I get to your questions, I do want to correct something that I said yesterday. I got asked about another meeting with our Mexican partners and whether there was something on the schedule, and I said that I wasn't aware that there was anything on the schedule. But if I had done my homework, I would have been able to answer that question better. At the conclusion of the last U.S.-Mexico Ministerial and Migration on the 19th of January, we did say in our readout that we would continue our strong cooperation on migration on the margins of the Trilateral Fentanyl Committee meeting in Mexico City in early February. And so we'll have more to share soon on that, but I was incorrect. There was actually something on the schedule, and it's in early February.
One person missing from your travel announcement with Africa, President Biden. Is he going to go to Africa this year? He has said he's going to go.
I have nothing to announce with respect to presidential travel.
Okay, and one more thing. Also, the Russia say that Ukraine shot down a military transport craft carrying Ukrainian POWs. Does the U.S. have any information on that?
No, we don't. We've seen the reports, but we're not in a position to confirm them. We're obviously doing the best we can to try to get more clarity and more information on it, but I don't have anything more for you right now.
John, could you give us information as to what the roadblocks were last year for the president not to go, and what some of the roadblocks could be this year, and what is considered an intense year why he would not go? What are some of the roadblocks?
I wouldn't describe them as roadblocks, April. I mean, as you know, there was a lot of international travel last year, and it was really a scheduling challenge. And we'll see what this year holds. The president is still very, very committed to making sure we are expanding and deepening our relationships on the continent. And as I just laid out in the opening statement, that's just this week. There's an awful lot going on.
But as you said, there's scheduling challenges, there are challenges, but the president made a commitment that he would go, as well as his cabinet secretaries. The vice president went last year, cabinet secretaries are still going. What is the importance of going to Africa for him in this moment still?
He's still committed to making sure that that we're all in on Africa. And again, I don't have travel to speak to now, April, but I can assure you that the president's very, very committed to deepening the relationships we have on the continent and to furthering all the lines of effort that we agreed to in the Africa Leaders Summit. That's why so many administration officials are visiting right now.
So what are the positives that have come out of all the administration officials going and not him thus far?
There's an awful lot of good work being done here, and I just kind of laid out for you briefly who's going and what they're and why they're going and what they're trying to get done. And all of these visits, all of these discussions, very much build on the Africa Leaders Summit and the things that we committed to doing economically, diplomatically, socially, and even in some ways from a security perspective. So I think we'll have good, I think, a sense once these trips are over and these principals come back on what kind of progress they made, and we'll just continue to work at it.
The UN Refugee Agency in Gaza says there's been a mass casualty event at one of its shelters in Gaza. They say it was struck by 2 tank shells. There are hundreds of people who are sheltering, displaced people who are sheltering here. Does the White House have a comment on this? And does this reflect a lower intensity phase of fighting in Gaza?
I don't have any information on this particular event, the way you described it. I don't have any background on it to share. I'm just learning about it myself. So look, why don't we, when the briefing's over, we'll see if we can comment on it one way or the other. I don't know. That aside, with the caveat that I don't know anything about this particular event that you're describing, the Israelis have taken steps to transition their operations. They have removed a division of troops. That's a lot of troops. That's thousands of troops. And they are pursuing on the ground more targeted operations particularly against the leadership. They are relying less on airstrikes. Low intensity operations doesn't mean no intensity operations. And even in a low intensity environment, again, I won't speak for them, but from our own experience, even in low intensity operations, you're still going to be in combat. There is still going to be fighting, and there's still going to be casualties. So again, I would just, as we think about this going forward, we shouldn't expect that as they transition to low intensity operations that there's not still going to be some violence.
John, just continuing on the Gaza question, yesterday the president's speech was interrupted by multiple protesters calling for a ceasefire. Now, we've seen these kind of interruptions at various events, but we're also seeing increased polling among the American public that is clamoring for a ceasefire. Is the president, is his perspective on this changing at all, given the daily mounting casualty toll? Is he starting to rethink whether it might be prudent to ask for a halt in the fighting and beyond just the pause?
I would remind that since a very early going in this conflict, we have been urging our Israeli counterparts to be careful and precise. We have talked about the civilian casualties and how we don't want to see any more. We have urged them to take different actions, and they have responded to that advice and counsel. He understands that there are strong feelings here on all sides, as you would expect. I mean, he's been doing this a long, long time. He also believes it's really important that Israel have the right and the ability to continue to defend themselves against what is clearly still a viable threat from Hamas. But that doesn't mean that we're going to stop, again, urging a stronger focus by our Israeli counterparts on minimizing civilian casualties and on getting aid in. And you talked about a pause. I would also remind that from the very beginning, or nearly the very beginning, this administration under President Biden's leadership has argued and tried to push for humanitarian pauses in the fighting so that hostages could get out and aid could get in, and we are still doing that. Brett McGurk is in the region as we speak. In fact, he's in Doha today, having discussions with our Qatari counterparts about the possibilities of another hostage deal.
Can I just follow up on that? So the president has been pushing for pauses. You've been talking here from the podium about pauses. The Israelis today have again sort of ruled out a Gaza ceasefire. They've said that there were pauses for humanitarian purposes, those that have been breached by Hamas. We're hearing out of the region that there's movement towards something like a 1 month pause. Can you give us an update on that? And then, whether that is, whether there's any additional language that would come as part of that about a further, like a more permanent solution.
Yeah, I don't have any additional context to provide today. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. As I said, Brett's in the region right now, and while he's having lots of conversations on lots of issues, this is certainly top of his agenda, and he's in Doha, as I said today. I don't want to get ahead of those discussions, except to repeat what I said yesterday, which is these are very sober and serious discussions we're having, and we certainly want to see another humanitarian pause put in place so that we can, again, get aid in and get people out. But how close we are to that and what the parameters of that are going to look like, how many days, and that's all part of the discussions we're having right now, and it would not be appropriate for me to try to speculate on where that's going right now.
We sadly don't have too much time. Thank you, Admiral. Sergei Lavrov, he's calling for an emergency UN Council meeting over the plane crash. Just want to get your reaction to that, and if there could be any truth to the Russian version of events, if the U.S. believes or were Ukrainian prisoners of war on that plane.
Again, we just don't have enough information to comment on this plane crash. We've seen the reports of it. We're trying to get more information, but it would be imprudent for me to speculate beyond that. I just don't know the veracity of these reports. The Ukrainians are claiming one thing, the Russians are claiming another, and we just don't know enough to comment on it.
And Iran's foreign minister told ABC News yesterday that he believes the risks of a wider war in the region is going up. He's blaming the U.S. for it, says that if the U.S. stopped providing aid, then Netanyahu wouldn't survive for 10 minutes. Wanted to get your reaction on that.
If the Iranian government is concerned about escalation, then the best thing they could do would be to cut off the support that they give to groups like Hamas and Hezbollah and these Iran-backed militia groups in Iraq and Syria. We don't want to see the conflict escalate. We don't want to see some broader war. We're not looking for a war or a conflict with anybody. We're actually trying to de-escalate. And if the Iranians are serious about that and they want to de-escalate, well, we would welcome them stopping this support.
John, could you give an assessment on what the White House's assessment is of the hunger crisis in Gaza? From several aid groups that, things could not be worse is the words that have been used. But what's the White House's take on that right now?
We understand that the humanitarian situation in Gaza is dire, and specifically when it comes to food insecurity. We're mindful of that, which is why, again, you got Brett in the region right now. We're trying to do everything we can to get additional humanitarian pauses in place so that aid can get in. It is obviously designed to help us get hostages out, of course, but when you have a lull in the fighting, man, you got to take advantage of that, and you got to get more trucks in. And so we're very much focused on this, and that's why food is such a principal product of the humanitarian assistance that's going in. We're mindful, though, we're very mindful that a lot of people are hungry.
Has the White House seen reports that there are Palestinians who are trying to make flour out of animal feed at this point? Like it is that level?
We're mindful of the dire circumstances that some people are living in terms of food insecurity there in Gaza. Absolutely. Now, one of the things we talked about, a week or so ago, was we had worked with the Israelis to open up the Ashdod port for the direct delivery into Gaza of flour, specifically because we know how important flour and the ability to create meals from that is to the people of Gaza. So we're very focused on this.
Okay, thank you so much. Admiral, can you comment on what happened in the Red Sea this morning? 2 Maersk vessels had to turn back after explosions happened. So were these explosions due to strikes by the Houthis? And if so, does it mean that the campaign against the Houthis still is not working?
What I can tell you and what I do know what happened today was that there were 3 Houthi missiles fired at 2 merchant vessels and in the southern Red Sea. One missile missed by something like 200 kilometers. The other 2 were shot down by a U.S. Navy destroyer. That's what I know. It's obviously underscores that the Houthis still intend to conduct these attacks, which means we're obviously still going to have to do what we have to do to protect that shipping.
Thank you. Following on the humanitarian crisis, President Biden recently said that there were no sticking points when it came to the border deal, which of course impacts the supplemental, but there does appear to be disagreement over an aid package for Palestinian civilians. So would the president support any measure that did not include aid for Palestinian civilians?
I won't negotiate here from the podium. That wouldn't be appropriate. We believe making good progress here on the Senate side in a bipartisan way to try to get this supplemental funding passed and in place. We understand that certainly includes lots of different moving pieces, but it would be irresponsible for me to go into much detail here.
Thank you. Admiral, I want to ask on behalf of my colleagues in Argentina, there are reports in local media down there that they're getting ready to finalize the purchase of the F-16s that was approved in the U.S. Last year. I'm wondering what your read is on that and what you can say about the context of potentially Argentina moving closer to Washington, maybe further from Beijing.
I don't have anything on the F-16s. Let me take that question and get back to you rather than try to pontificate from here. But obviously, we value the bilateral relationship with Argentina and certainly want to do what we can to improve it, grow it, deepen it. But let me get back to you on the F-16s.
Last question, sir.
Thank you. 2 questions on Iran proxies. Can you confirm reports that Iran has provided Mohajer 6 combat drone to the Sudanese army? And secondly, why is there a double standard when it comes to the administration dealing with the Iranian proxies in the region? On one hand, U.S. backs Israel annihilating Hamas, but only launches operation which seeks degrading Houthis and Iranian-backed groups in Iraq.
I'm not sure I understand the premise of the second question. There's no double standard here. We're acting in self-defense in both cases. The strikes against the Iran-backed groups in Iraq yesterday were designed to prevent them from continuing to attack our troops, self-defense. And the same thing goes for the attacks against the Houthis, whether it's ashore or knocking their stuff out of the sky when it's on the way to these ships like we did this morning. It's about self-defense. There's no double standard here. And I didn't understand your first question. What was the...
Can you confirm reports that Iran has provided Mohajer 6 combat drone to the Sudanese army?
To the Sudanese, I have not seen that report. I'll take the question and get back to you.
Thanks so much, Admiral. Thank you so much. All right, Chris.
I just wanted to just recap one thing. You said there's an Africa travel update. I was just sort of puzzled that there's nothing more on the president. Just thought that it's going to be. We're all waiting for that at the end.
I know. Well, he did talk about Africa travel, but not as it relates to the president. But there are, as you heard from the Admiral, cabinet secretaries, obviously being really active with their travel, going to the continent, and having really important conversations.
Is it still the president's commitment to go to the continent?
Look, it is the president's commitment to go to the continent. As it relates to a timeline, a date, I don't have that to share with you at this time, but we wanted to lift up the cabinet secretaries, as we have also said that we would see an influx of cabinet secretaries traveling to the continent, which is what you're seeing, and the president is very much wants to go to the continent. Obviously, one of the reasons why we lifted up in the topper today is because the president wanted to show his commitment to the continent of Africa.
And a personal question, Mike Donald and General Dillon.
Personnel. I'm like, personal question.
Yeah, personnel.
I was like, why now? Why here?
Mike Donald and General Dillon are leaving the White House for the campaign. When is their last day here at the White House?
No, I appreciate the question. So a couple of things. You guys all saw the president's statement last night, announcing that Mike Donilon and Jen O'Malley Dillon will leave the White House in the upcoming weeks to join the re-election campaign. Like the president said, they have served with dedication and purpose as we have delivered on a historic recovery, and he is thankful to Mike and Jen both for their service in the White House these past 3 years. Both are trusted advisors to the president, as you all know, who have deep experience and played important roles in the historic successes he has delivered for the American people, ranging from building an economy that works from the bottom up, middle out, not the top down, standing up for our basic freedoms as Americans, or protecting our democracy from unprecedented threats. And on a personal note, now I will say this personally, I've known Jen O'Malley Dillon for some time, and she has been an excellent colleague. Mike Donilon has become a friend over the last 3 years, and we are very sad to lose them. As it relates to a timeline, it's going to be in the upcoming weeks. I just don't have a timeline to share at this time. Okay, Kelly.
In terms of the event yesterday, where the president obviously indicated that the views of the public are passionate and there are expected protests, is he now braced for protest at every event where the public is expected?
So, look, let me just say more broadly, obviously the president respects people's right to speak out peacefully, as you just stated in your question to me, Kelly O. As it relates to events and what to expect, that is something for Secret Service. Obviously, they deal with that. It's not something that I can speak to. They look out for that. They deal with that, so I don't want to get ahead of the Secret Service process. But look, again, the president believes that Americans have the right to speak out, make their voice heard, as long as they do it peacefully. And so we respect that.
I'm glad they respect that. I'm glad they're doing that. I'm not going to hold y'all too much longer, Doc. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. Till next time I see y'all, good morning, good afternoon. Every time you're watching this, y'all have a good one. Peace.